Hello and welcome to the Happiness Is podcast with me, your host, Bruce Aitchison, and I am very excited today to have a mate, actually, somebody that I've got to know over the last few years, former Scotland international and try-scoring machine, and a man who is absolutely mad as a box of frogs. But having played for Harlequins down south and with Quins in the Prem final on Saturday, who better to come and give us a bit of totally ill-informed insight? The one and the only, the mad Dutchman, Mr. Tim Visser.
What an introduction. Does it get crazier than that or not? I think mate's probably a big word, but yes, we know each other relatively well.
Do you know, I hesitated over that one. I wonder where to go with that, because it makes me sound like a competition winner.
Yeah, that's nice. I like it.
So, you are the crazy Dutchman. Have you been watching the football?
No, actually, I haven't. I'm not a huge football fan. I am a bit of a rugby fan, but I've kept an eye on the Scotland scores, obviously, and the Holland scores, because I'm obviously fairly divided. I actually would always support Holland in football because they are just so much better, and I would always support Scotland in rugby because they are so much better.
But you're a glory hunter. You're a glory hunter.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I've always been a glory. I mean, I thought you'd know that about me by now. I think Holland, from what I gather, are doing really well, and Scotland are struggling. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. But we're not here to talk about that. No, I just thought you might be able to dazzle me with a bit of Johan Cruyff, Marco van Basten knowledge there.
Nothing. Sorry.
And life now, rugby's finished. What do you find yourself doing and filling your hours with?
Looking at the ceiling a lot of the time. No, I do. I'm a property developer nowadays. So we do, at the moment, we're doing commercial conversions. So sadly, a lot of restaurants and bars are going bust, but good for me, we are turning them into beautiful apartments. And, with there not being enough places to live for people still in the UK, I think it's actually quite a noble goal.
Yeah, okay. We've got our modern day Robin Hood right here.
There we go. Giving it to the poor. There we go. No, absolutely not. But no, it is quite cool because there is a lot of nice commercial spaces in the Edinburgh City Centre, which sadly just aren't sustainable. And we need more place for people to live. So we get to turn these beautiful, sometimes listed buildings back into nice apartments and houses and whatever else. So it's sometimes really good fun when things are done, and it's sometimes really horrible when you come in and it is disgusting in there.
Have you got a hard hat and a high-vis vest?
I had a hard hat, but they didn't fit on my dome very well, so I got rid of that pretty quickly. The vests don't make much of a difference either. The guys are running around me, breaking stuff down, and I'm standing there, and they basically tell me to go away because I just stand in the way.
Yeah, you're the clipboard kind of guy. You're the money and negotiator.
I should be the guy that tells people what to do, but I end up being told to go away because they know better than me anyway. So no, it's been a big learning curve over the last 2 years, but it's been really good fun.
And how's the body now that you've given up rugby?
Better in some ways and much worse in other ways. I think better, like knees and joints and back, much better not having to run around all day long and lift weights and get tackled and all the likes. But I mean, like anyone else in the real world will know, fitness and fat percentages go up and fitness goes down very quickly. So I'm trying to keep fit. I do a lot of stuff with David Denton because he lives nearby and is obviously retired as well. So we go to the gym. Try not to spend too much time in there and then go to the jacuzzi. What else do? We do a bit of like assault biking, running around. We play Monday Night Touch with a load of Aki's guys down at the Rayburn, which is good. And I try and get better at golf, but for some reason, the more I play, the worse I get. So that's been frustrating.
I can't imagine you having the patience for golf.
Oh, I don't, Bruce. I try and... You know what? The problem with golf, and like anyone will tell you that plays a lot of golf, the times it goes well, it's such an amazing sport. But then you automatically think you're good at things. And I think as an ex-sportsman, having always been good at sports, you then think, well, I've nailed it. I'm awesome. And then the next time you play and you literally lose 9 balls, and, I've been wanting to throw my set in the lake at one point. I was like, this whole thing's going, the water is going. I didn't care. It was new. I'm going to break this one over my knee and I'm going to chuck the whole thing in the water. And luckily, Den stopped me. But no, it can be frustrating.
Do you miss rugby?
No, not playing it. If I look at rugby now and I see people, especially wingers, get smashed on short lines, I think, God, I don't miss that at all. But it's quite funny because when I was playing, I never watched rugby. I hated watching rugby because I was doing it all day long. But now that I've finished, I've kind of turned back into a rugby fan again. So I love going to Murrayfield and seeing Scotland play when that was still possible. And now that the Edinburgh Stadium has been built, that's obviously really excited. I can't wait to go down there. And I would have loved to go to the Quins final this weekend, obviously, as well.
So do you keep in touch with the boys at Quins?
Yeah, I do. I'm still in a couple of WhatsApp groups with the majority of the boys. One's aptly named Ibiza, one's called Wine Club, and there's another one called James and James, which has got James Hall and Jamie Roberts in it. So yeah, I speak to them actually really regularly. There's a tight group of friends from there, Chris Robshaw and Danny Kerr, James Hall, Jamie Roberts, Ben Tapwai, who's actually just leaving now at the end of the season. And we all, still keep in touch, and I think we probably will do for the next part of our lives. And James will always just move back to Australia, so that's complicated things slightly. Jamie is back in Wales, but he's up here this weekend for the Lions game, so I'll see him. And then I've gone to see a load of them a couple of weeks ago when I was down in London for some work. So it's. No, we keep in touch, definitely.
And Chris Robshaw's got another sore one at the weekend.
Yeah, I spoke to him. He's pretty gutted. I think they've got 3 games left. He got injured in the first game over there because he's at San Diego and popped his shoulder out, which I don't think he's ever done before, as far as I know. And then obviously got back for the last couple of games and then done it again. So I think he's now going to rehab, then come back for a couple of months, and then he's going back out there because he's got another year with them.
Looks like life's good, and now he's a dad.
I know. I saw him at the baseball the other day. It didn't look like the worst place to be. All I can see is I think he was going over to San Diego, obviously for preseason, and then it turned out that because of COVID, they based them all in Las Vegas. So he did the first couple of months in Vegas. I mean, just mad. And then he's now in San Diego. He's been up to LA and San Fran and God knows where else he's been. But as far as I can see, restrictions are a lot lighter in the West Coast of America than they are here. And they've been having a lot of beach fun, which we haven't in Edinburgh.
So is the WhatsApp chat any of the boys fishing for a gig in the States?
Yeah, I think there's been a bit of that from Danny Kerr. I saw he had a bit of a flirt with one of the MLR teams on Twitch. I don't know which one it was, and I saw Marler had something similar. There was a bit of a joke going around, but yeah, I mean, I think from hearing from the boys that are out there, it's actually really good fun. I think they're playing free-flowing rugby. There is actually quite a lot of good players out there. So the standard's pretty decent, and you get to live in places like San Diego, LA, New York, Boston. So pretty cool stuff. So yeah, I think would I have wanted to do it after rugby? I think if it was in the place that it was in now a couple of years ago, I would have definitely given it a good thought. Do 6 months out in America for a bit of crack with the family. Yeah, why not? Why not?
So Quids this weekend, you're saying you wish you were there. I think it's only 10,000 in an 80,000 seater stadium, so it's going to be a bit weird. But they were. What a comeback! Just ridiculous comeback.
I mean, I was watching it, and I was actually chatting to Mike Brown via text message, who was sitting in the stadium. and they went 28-0 down. And I said, oh, well, this is that's it, basically put to bed now. And he sent me like, like the eyes, the ones where you're like, I don't know, kind of maybe. And then they scored before half time, which turned to 28-5. And I thought to myself, they'll have to really come out of the blocks in the second half, score first to be in with a shout, and they did. And then, they took it to the wire, to extra time, and then scored at the end of that first period of second half. And I thought it kind of showed how fit Quins were. You saw Joe Marler played 100 minutes of rugby for a prop that can't feel good. But on the other flip side of that, I thought it was really interesting what was going on at Bristol, because you saw a couple of changes coming through at Quins and boys making really positive impacts. But the Bristol hooker, I think it was Thacker, was literally almost walking sideways. He was so stiff, couldn't even get to a scrum at one point, and they were refusing to take him off. I don't know who was on the bench there, but someone was not getting a lot of the bench at Bristol weren't giving a lot of confidence, I thought. And it was a shame to see. But great for Quins.
Have you ever been part of that, where a halftime changing room has completely changed things?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, of course. I think any player will have been, but always in different ways. Coaches do it in different ways. I think Lamb obviously said a couple of weeks ago, I think that when they came to Quins, he said, "Oh, guys, if you guys don't want this, just hop on the bus and we'll go home," kind of thing. And that sparked a reaction, and Bristol were better in the second half. But I've had it in all sorts of different ways. Vern Cotter just going through us like properly. And the thing with Vern always was he talked really quietly, which kind of he almost whispered sometimes, which made everyone listen. It was obviously some sort of thing he did, and he started. I think it was against the USA in the World Cup, and we'd squandered a couple of try scoring opportunities, and at half time he started by whispering, and then literally out of nowhere he just erupted and started going through us badly, and it got a good reaction because we put him to bed straight after the break. But yeah, can be really interesting.
So what happened with Quins? Have you got any insight? Did Brownie give you any insight? What happened? Was it a quiet whisper?
I don't. I mean, I think they just kind of said, "Well, listen, this is it. Like we either roll over and it's going to be a big old tennis score, or cricket score, or we go for it. We give it all we've got, kind of thing, and then we see where we can get, and we try and get ourselves to our first final in." God knows what, 10 years, 10 years. I don't know how long it is. I think it's 2012 and they won it. Whatever happened in there obviously did the trick.
So who do you look at and think, I wish I was playing with them? Are there any of the players that excite you?
At Quins?
Yeah.
I mean, still Danny Kerr, still running the show, really. Marcus Smith, having stepped up so much since I left, he was already well established at that point. He's just getting better and better, making better decisions on the ball. I mean, who else? I mean, there's a lot of good players in that team. That little nippy 15 Green is just he ran about 168 meters on the weekend, which again is crazy, and even crazier that he probably wouldn't have played if Brown wasn't suspended. And
the coaching team at Quins is pretty special now.
Yeah, I think the funny one with Millard coming in as general manager at the time, he was obviously a bit of a Scott Johnson figure, or that's how I saw it. Very, very, very Australian, but good. Really, I thought he was a really good guy, but he wouldn't really do anything day to day with the team. He was just there behind the scenes to make sure everything was getting sorted, a bit like Scott did as technical director at the SRU and now at Australia, I guess. But with Gustard, getting the boot, there was obviously a need for him to step in, and I guess it just shows how good of a coach he is. He's got a real good relationship with the team. I think the way that they've been enlightened to play. I also think Nick Evans has probably got more freedom since Gustard has left and is able to put a bit more of his mark on the team. And if you see some of the free-flowing rugby they're playing, that's really working out. And I think it's probably like that for the majority of the coach. I think Bomb is obviously doing a good job with the scrum, and Flannery is running the line out pretty well, because I think their percentage in the line out was one of the highest in the Premiership at that point. So it's just all kind of clicking. It's a real shame that it happened after Gustard left, because he was, in my opinion, actually quite a good coach.
So do you think they can win it on Saturday? Do you think it's realistic?
I don't know. I would like to think so, because I would love for them to win it. I think it'd be absolutely brilliant, where they've come from this season to push their way into a final with an extension in the semi and whatever else went on in that. But I think I'm worried that semi-final is going to play its role in the final. We've seen Marler play 100 minutes after flying over to the game in a helicopter because his fourth kid was born like 20 minutes before kickoff or something like that. We've seen not that many changes. Smith's played 100 minutes. Care, I think, came off with 10 or 15 to go, something like that. So I'm worried that Quins have had a much harder semi-final than Exeter have had. And I also think Exeter is a completely different opposition compared to Bristol. Bristol weren't that good in defence. Exeter are very polished in defence. They're very good ball in hand, but they can also do the dirty work that, the likes of Saracens and Leicester would have been good in traditionally. Close to the line, they start picking and going, and they can finish stuff like that, but then suddenly it zips out and they're dangerous out wide as well. So I think they're a bit of a complete team. So, do I think it's realistic that Quins are going to win? Probably not. But then it also completely suits Quins, because it's just a one-off game. It's cup rugby. They can throw everything at it. And we've seen that when they do, they can come back from 28-0 down, which shows how good they can be ball in hand.
How much do you and your ex-pro mates discuss referees? Because on Saturday, Chiefs could get a red card in the first minute for a high tackle, and all of a sudden the ball is in Quinn's court. Is that a topic of conversation?
Yeah, as and when it happens. There was a lot of swearing going on during the Six Nations. I think it's just tricky, because I think as an ex-rugby player, how things happen on the pitch, and that we almost instantly know whether there was intent in something or whether there wasn't. And I think spectators can see that up to a certain amount. And I think referees can see it as well. But I think the referees' hands are tied nowadays. It's become a complete legal tussle between what a referee sees on the pitch and what he's been told to do by World Rugby. And, we saw it during the World Cup in Japan, where they cracked down on players in the air, right? So suddenly you could see that two players were competing for the ball, or something clumsy happened. Someone got pushed into someone else, whatever. Just clumsy stuff like happens in rugby. Rugby is a physical sport. And suddenly we're seeing red cards going in left, right, and centre. Then in the Six Nations, we see Xander Fagerson come in my opinion, in a great position. He's going full steam. He's got a good low body position, and he absolutely whacks the guy that's trying to steal the ball. The guy from Wales is getting pulled up at the last minute by someone else. Fagerson hits him in the head or scamps him in the head, whatever. We all know, we can all see that that's legal. He's gone in, if you coach a rugby player, how do you clear a ruck? Well, if you're 120 kilos, you run as hard as you can, you get a good low body position, you smack whoever's over the ball. That's how it works, right? Especially when you're trying to clear out another player that's 120 kilos. You can't expect someone of that size and speed to be able to adjust his body position away from someone's head that's suddenly been moved up or down at the last minute. That's just not realistic. That's not rugby. But contact to the head is a red card. And I think the power for referees to make that informed decision on the pitch has kind of been taken away. And I just think that's a real shame, because I think, especially at the top level, referees know what's happening. They know what's intent and what's not intent, and it's just ruining the game because you saw it with Wales in the Six Nations. They went from being the least expected to win the thing to 2 or 3 red cards further, and they're top of the league. It's just silly. So yeah. By the way, it gets me fired up.
I can see that
for a while.
Then the next bit to that is the bans. I see one of the Scotland under-20s has picked up a 3-match ban for getting a red card against Ireland, and that's his World Cup over. And you think, is that the best punishment for a 20-year-old kid to miss on that chance? But anyway, that's a whole other issue. So Quins, sounds like it meant a lot to you. How does that happen in pro sport? Surely that's just your employer and you're an employee and you do as you're told. But it sounds like there's a big sense of belonging to Quins.
Yeah, but there is to Edinburgh as well. I think yes, rugby's a sport. It's a job. Sorry, and we get paid sometimes a lot of money to play somewhere, and that's how affiliations start. In the end of the day, you got to do what's best for you and your family. It's a short career. Blah 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 blah. But once you get somewhere, you know whether you like it, whether you like the people, and whether you're having a good time or not. And I obviously had a great time at Edinburgh for a number of reasons, but when I came to Quins, I just really clicked as well. I think the players that were there, I arrived at the same time as James Hall and Jamie Roberts, so that kind of created a bond. But we fitted in really well with the way Quins wanted to play and their ethos at the time. But there was also just a really good group of guys. I think all the way from established internationals to academy boys, everyone was just really easygoing. There was no real sniping. There wasn't any looking up or down or anything like that. So everyone was just really enjoying themselves for the majority of the time.
How does it come about then? You're playing at Edinburgh, international rugby player. How do you end up at Harlequins?
Well, nowadays everyone's got agents that rummage around and find the best club for you, I guess. I was at Edinburgh. I'd just come out of a long 3.5-4 year contract. I was playing under Solomons, who had decided that Edinburgh should not be playing rugby anymore, but should just be kicking it away the majority of the time. So I was standing on the wing, not doing a whole lot, just chasing kicks. So I thought it was time for a change. And yeah, I mean, your agent starts looking around, which clubs are looking for wingers, start speaking to them. And Quins were interested. So I flew down to Heathrow, met Conor O'Shea, had a great conversation with him. Felt like what they were trying to do would suit my style of play, and yeah, that's basically what happened. And before you know it, you're in a World Cup with Scotland, and then afterwards moving straight into Surrey.
And Quins is and the teams in the English Premiership are clubs. They've got a home or most of them have got a home that they've had for a while. They've got a fan base where people's dads and mums and grandfathers and grandmothers were supporters. So there's a real loyalty. What's the atmosphere like there? Yeah,
I think I didn't realize how big the brand Harlequins was until I got down there. The place is sold out every game. It's always full, whether you're playing in a European Challenge Cup against a Romanian team or whether you're playing against Sarries on a Friday night. It's always rammed. The support is incredible. We were filling Twickenham Stadium for our big games on Boxing Day. So that kind of shows, having 87,000 people there for a club game is immense. But also, everywhere we went, because we were doing pre-season tours all the way from Germany to San Francisco and Amsterdam at one point, actually. But there's always people. I may have played a part in that. There's always people wearing Quins shirts wherever you go, and I think you don't realize how big of a traditional name in rugby Quins is. It's a bit like like Leicester and Bath, but it is so much bigger than you could imagine from being in the rugby bubble up here in Scotland. And then with that comes the fact that some of these clubs are so well established. They've got such good training grounds, such good facilities, and to be blunt about it, so much money that everything is so incredibly well arranged. Now, luckily, I was obviously used to that, having been part of the Scotland setup for a number of years. But a lot of these Premiership clubs are very similar in setup to what a Scotland rugby camp would be in terms of staff and facilities and whatever else. So you're extremely well taken care of.
So how do you treat a game at Capacity Twickenham when you could have been up at Kingston Park on a Friday night playing against the Falcons? Do you prepare differently, or is it just another game?
I think you try to pretend that it's just another game, but I think when games get hard, and are we picking that up or not? Nah. When games get tough, they really want you there. When games get tough, it's the fans that help you. You know, if there's a long kick and it's raining, and you're chasing it, and the fans start roaring, that does give you a little bit of extra. And I think the biggest example of that has been, more recently, where they're not being allowed any crowds in stadiums, and you've still seen some teams perform and some not. It kind of shows that some players need that, but other players and other good teams can also kind of generate that from within. But yeah, going to Newcastle on a Friday night around Christmas time, it isn't as easy as playing at Twickenham in front of 92,000 people. So it's different, but I think the good teams manage that better than the poor teams.
Where did Quins get the toughest reception for an away game? Where was it? Especially as a winger, you must hear a lot of chat.
Oh, it's brilliant. Over the years, I've had some horrific stuff because you're obviously so close to the crowd. What was bad? The shed at Gloucester is pretty special. Some of the stuff that gets thrown towards you from the crowd there is just outright brutal. You get called poor man's Sean Lamont or whatever. Name it. I just made that up, but. And obviously the donkey noises are always good crack. I once got a pass, a really slow pass out of the back of another runner, and I caught it near the shed. And their winger, a guy called, I think he's called Davy Haluafia, something like that, some Tongan monster, just completely spotted me and absolutely smoked me. And on the floor, I managed to get the ball back to my side. They turned it over, and literally it was one of those moments where everyone goes, "Oh," and I'm lying there on my back, and I've been literally emptied, and I'm trying to get up, and I've been banged so hard that I'm bong-eyed, so I can't see straight. I don't know if you've ever been hit so hard that you can't see straight, but my eye is looking that way, and the other one is like blurry, so I can't see anything, and in my head I'm like, right. Just get up, walk off, and pretend nothing's happened. And I'm walking off, and I've walked straight into like Chris Robshaw or something like that, like head on head. I'm like, sorry. And I'm walking the other way, pretending to be normal. And literally, I stood on the wing, and the game was about to resume. And I remember saying to the physio, I was like, I can't see. And he's like, what do you mean? And I went, I can't see anything. He's like, right, well, go down on one knee then, because they're about to start again. And I was like, no. So I didn't know what to do. And literally, luckily, something else happened. The scrum didn't restart. But after about a minute, literally, my eyes started going, and kind of went back straight. And honestly, I've never been that bad. But yeah, obviously, some of the rubbish coming out of the shed didn't help me at that point.
Where did you like going to play? Where was good for you?
Bath. I always liked Bath. I don't know, for some reason I always played well there. I think we always had good weather there. We were playing a Saturday at the Rec, always good weather. And I used to score for some, like there's always stadiums where I think you score tries and then that becomes a nice place to go as a winger. So then you start scoring more tries. So the Bath was always one for me. Where else did I like? When I was at Edinburgh, I used to love the Cardiff City Stadium when they played there. Because the grass was amazing, the stadium was perfect, no wind. It's very similar with the Ospreys one, the Welsh football stadiums that they started using I always quite liked. But what did I not like? We played Thomond Park once, and I know it's meant to be amazing, but it literally looked like they'd had the sheep on it for 2 weeks previously. There was just holes everywhere. It's brutal. But there's obviously some amazing places that we've been to. I mean, the most amazing place still I think I've ever played rugby is the Stade de France. It's just so huge and it is so noisy. I think after Murrayfield, that was probably my favourite place to play.
And when you were playing for Scotland, coming from Holland, was the whole of Holland supporting Scotland?
The whole of Holland was in Murrayfield. No, it was actually quite extraordinary because by the time I started playing for Scotland, a lot of people had caught on to the fact that I was playing professionally in Edinburgh. So we started getting, school trips and rugby trips to Holland. So every home game, there would always be, 30, 40 Dutch supporters, which was amazing. And then I remember I made my debut against Fiji over in Fiji, which was, the middle of the night over here. So no one really picked up on that. But my home debut was against the All Blacks. And I remember driving into the stadium, as the bus always does. And I looked out the window and there was literally about 100 Dutch people all in full orange with like flags and stuff, which was quite amazing. But yeah, there would always be a lot of Dutch people at the international games, Six Nations games and Autumn Internationals, because it's such a short flight and there is no professional rugby in Holland. So it's such an easy opportunity for them to catch top flight rugby.
So how did you get started in rugby?
Yeah, my dad always played. So I grew up around our local rugby club. My dad played. Both my uncles from both sides of the family played. So I think I was always going to play rugby, but rugby was in the nearest town, which was about half an hour away from where I lived. My mum always played netball when she was younger, and netball in Holland is called korfball. It's a mixed sport, and my mum, I think when I was sort of like 6 years old, 5 or 6, she's like, just go and play korfball because it's in the village. You can just go to training on your bike and stuff. So I was fine, I didn't care. I went to go and play korfball, and I think within maybe a year or two, they'd figured out that korfball probably wasn't the sport for me because I was bumping people around and running into people and all kind of stuff. And then my little brother Sepp also joined the korfball club. And I think in one of his first games, some girl ran past him and he grabbed her by the ponytail and yanked her back. And that was him off the korfball club, essentially. So at that point, they went, right, I think it's time for you guys to start playing rugby. So I started playing rugby when I was, I think, eight, and Sepp would have been 4 or 5 probably. So yeah, I've always played it, and like rugby is over here, very tight knit world. Everyone, all your friends and family are around the rugby club, so we very quickly fitted in.
And then you come to UK with the intention of being a rugby player?
I did actually. I was quite fortunate that I got scouted by Newcastle when I played Amsterdam 7. So there's a guy called John Fletcher who at the time was academy manager at Newcastle, and he had heard about me through a guy called Joe Shaw, who nowadays is actually the Sarries head coach. Really good guy. And Joe was on a jolly at Amsterdam 7, saw me play there as a 16-year-old, and he said, I think you should come and try rugby in the UK. And John gave me a trial with Newcastle, after which I got offered a place at Barnard Castle School. So I did my A-levels at Barnard Castle and then joined Newcastle basically full-time after that. So yeah, I was quite lucky in that I came straight over to be a rugby player, which was alien to me because, I'd seen Johnny Wilkinson kick that World Cup winning drop goal. And I think 4 months later, I was on a practice pitch with him at Newcastle, and I remember asking John, what does he do? Like, when does he work? When does he go to work? And he's like, no, this is Johnny's work. He's like, these guys don't have a job. Like, they're professional rugby players. I was like, oh, wow, that sounds amazing. It was just really alien to me, and that's kind of how it flowed. And then after 5 years with Newcastle, Andy Robinson signed me for Edinburgh, and then immediately moved on as Scotland coach. Andy never coached me at Edinburgh. Rob Moffat did, which again, amazing coach, probably one of my best coaches, just like John Fletcher was, very hands-on with the players, great guy. And then a variety of coaches at Edinburgh, none of which were very good in my opinion. But Andy gave me my first cap for Scotland, and my second, third, and then after my fourth, when we got beaten by Tonga up in Aberdeen, I think it was. That was one of the darkest days of my life. He sadly got fired, and then Scott Johnson took over, who I still think is one of the greatest guys. And I know he's not everyone's flavor, but I really got on with him. Although that's maybe because I couldn't understand half of every sentence he said.
And you loved scoring tries. Were you always a winger?
No. When I was younger, I was like a 10, 12, 13-ish. And then I came to Newcastle, and I think John had one look at me, and I was a lot younger than everyone else. So I was playing in the academy, that goes up to sort of 20. And I was only 16, 17. So I was still a little bit slow. And he's like, no, I think you're more of a flanker. So he stuck me in the back row, which during scrum time in Moles, I absolutely hated. But apart from that, I would just stand next to the centre. So that kind of worked out a little bit. But then my first week being full-time with Newcastle, there were a couple of injuries on the wing. And they kind of looked around the room and they were like, right, who else is relatively quick? And they kind of looked at me and they're like, right, you're on the bench for the wing. And I made my debut against Worcester, scored the winning try. So, like, however amazing that is as an 18-year-old, you have no idea. Like, playing in a packed-out Kingston Park, winning the game, literally in the last second, scoring the winning try, and then walking into a bar in Jesmond, and literally you have no idea what that feels like. I don't think I paid for a drink all night, which was kind of where it went wrong for me a couple of years later. But I think I scored in my first 3 games, and that kind of cemented as me suddenly being a winger, and I was more than happy not having to do scrum training anymore. So that saved me from being a forward, I think.
Awesome. I love it. Well, I know we're against the clock because your kids are about to come charging in the room to say,
running through the door. I'm done for. As soon as they come in, I'm done for.
Daddy. So, Vis, love speaking to you. Great to see you. You're looking well, even though you look like you're fading away. So, prediction on Saturday, Quins for the win?
Well, I'm going to have to say that, of course. I think realistically, Exeter are the favourites, but yeah, I'm going to back Quins the whole way.
Nice. And Lions against South Africa?
I actually think they've got a really good chance. I think a lot of those South African players haven't played a whole lot of rugby. The boys here have got a pretty decent season under their belt. It's a very good team. As always with South Africa, there's going to be one up front somewhere. So if we can get a good platform, then the backs can be really, really lethal. And I'm looking forward to seeing big Duan, obviously, and Hamish Watson. For me, they're big 2 to watch, just because I know them, I guess.
Your mates. Love it. Vis, thank you, sir. Great to see you. Enjoy the weekend.
Thanks for having me, mate. Bye-bye.
Speak to you soon. Bye-bye. Love speaking to Tim Visser. As I said, mad as a box of frogs. Lots of stories to tell. Tries he's scored, places he's been, and he keeps doing it all with a smile on his face. Looking forward to seeing him in person. Well, his happiness, I think, is egg-shaped. It sounds like Quinn's made quite an impression on him. It'll be interesting to see how the weekend unfolds after that unbelievable comeback against the Bears in lots and lots of minutes. And Joe Marler must have had the week off to prepare for the final. I hope you've enjoyed listening to Tim. I certainly enjoyed speaking to him. You can catch us on Acast, on Spotify, and on Apple. Tune in. Give us a subscribe, give us a review, tell your friends, share and tag and do all those things. You can also watch the video on Facebook and YouTube, and hopefully we'll see you again because we have got some more fantastic guests. And stay tuned because we have an enormous announcement coming very, very soon. I am on the edge of peeing my pants excited. I cannot wait for the summer to unfold. My name is Bruce Aitchison and my happiness is egg-shaped, and I look forward to speaking to you all again soon. Stay safe.